Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam Mahapurana ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 13, texts 11 to 27. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapatam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we can begin with reading the verses. Yes, Prabhu.
As a historical example of this, learned sages recite the story of an ancient discussion between Prahlad Maharaj and a great saintly person who was feeding himself like a python. Yes, sir. The next?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Prahlada Maharaj, the most dear servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, once went out touring the universe with some of his confidential associates just to study the nature of saintly persons. Thus he arrived at the bank of the Kaveri, where there was a mountain known as Sahya. There he found a great saintly person who was lying on the ground, covered with dirt and dust, but who was deeply spiritually advanced.
Neither by the saintly person's activities, by his bodily features, by his words, nor by the symptoms of his varnashram status, could people understand whether he was the same person they had known.
The advanced devotee Prahlad Maharaj duly worshipped and offered obeisances to the saintly person who had adopted a python's means of livelihood. After thus worshipping the saintly person and touching his own head to the saint's lotus feet, Prahlad Maharaj, in order to understand him, inquired very submissively as follows.
Seeing the saintly person to be quite fat, Prahlad Maharaja said, "My dear sir, you undergo no endeavor to earn your livelihood, but you have a stout body, exactly like that of a materialistic enjoyer. I know that if one is very rich and has nothing to do, he becomes extremely fat by eating and sleeping and performing no work."
O Brahmana, fully in knowledge of transcendence, you have nothing to do, and therefore you are lying down. It is also understood that you have no money for sense enjoyment. How then has your body become so fat? Under these circumstances, if you do not consider my question impudent, kindly explain how this has happened.
Your Honor appears learned, expert, and intelligent in every way. You can speak very well, saying things that are pleasing to the heart. You see that people in general are engaged in fruitive activities, yet you are lying here inactive.
Narada Muni continued, when the saintly person was thus questioned by Prahlad Maharaj, the king of the Daityas, he was captivated by a shower of nectarian words, and he replied to the inquisitiveness of Prahlad Maharaj with a smiling face.
The saintly Brahman said, O best of the Asuras, Prahlad Maharaj, who are recognized by advanced and civilized men, you are aware of the different stages of life because of your inherent transcendental eyes, with which you can see a man's character, and thus you know clearly the results of acceptance and rejection of things as they are.
Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is full of opulences, is predominant within the core of your heart because of your being a pure devotee. He always drives away all the darkness of ignorance, as the sun drives away the darkness of the universe.
My dear king, although you know everything, you have posed some questions, which I shall try to answer according to what I have learned by hearing from authorities. I cannot remain silent in this regard, for a personality like you is just a fit to be spoken to by one who desires self-purification.
Because of the insatiable material desires, I was being carried away by the waves of material nature's laws, and thus I was engaging in different activities, struggling for existence in various forms of life.
In the course of evolutionary process, which is caused by fruitive activities due to undesirable material sense gratification, I have received this human form of life, which can lead to heavenly planets, to liberation, to the lower species, or to rebirth among human beings.
In this human form of life, men and women unite for the sensual pleasure of sex, but by actual experience we have observed that none of them are happy. Therefore, seeing the contrary results, I have stopped taking part in materialistic activities.
The actual form of life for the living entities is one of spiritual happiness, which is real happiness. This happiness can be achieved only when one stops all materialistic activities. Material sense enjoyment is simply an imagination. Therefore, considering the subject matter, I have ceased from all material activities and I am lying down here.
And that takes us to the verse of the day. So please repeat after me. Sukham asyatmano rupam sarveho paratistanuhu manasang sparshajan drishtva bhogan swapsyami sangvishan
Sukham ayasta manorupam. Second line.
Sarveho paratistanu.
Manah sansparshajan drishtva.
Bhogan swapswami samvisham.
Bhogan swapsyami sangvishan
Sukham asyatmano rupam.
Sukham asyatmano rupam
paratistanu.
Sarveho paratistanu.
Mana samsparsajan drishtva.
Mana samsparsajan drishtva. Bhogam swapsyami sammi visham.
Bhogan swapsyami samvisham.
Sukham asyatmano rupam.
Sukham asyatmano rupam.
Sarveho paratistanahu.
Sarveho paratistanuhu.
Sampashana sajan drishtva.
Manasang sparshajan drishtva.
Bhogan swapsyami samvisan.
Bhogan swapsyami samvisan. Sukham asyatmano rupam.
Sukham asyatmano rupam.
Sarveho paratistanahu.
Sarveho paratistanu. Manah samsparshan chandrishtva. Manah samsparshan chandrishtva.
Bhogan swapsyam samvishyaham.
Bhogan swapsyami samvishan.
Sukham asto manorupam.
Sukham asyatmano rupam. Sarveho paratistanu.
Mana samsparjana drisva.
Manasang sparshajan drishtva.
Bhogan swapsyami samvishan.
Bhogan swapsyami samvishan.
Sukham asyatmano rupam.
Sukham asyatmano rupam. Sarveho paratistanu.
Mana samsparjana drisva.
Samsparshajan drishtva.
Bhogan swapsyami samvisham.
Bhogan swapsyami samvishan.
Are we satisfied? Okay. Sukham, happiness. Asya, of him. Atmanaha, of the living entity. Rupam, the natural position. Sarva, all. Iha, material activities. Uparatihi, completely stopping. Tanuhu, the medium of its manifestation. Manaha sangsparshajan, produced from demands for sense gratification. Drishtva, after seeing. Bhogan, sense enjoyment. Swapsyami, I am sitting silently, thinking deeply about these material activities. Sangvishan, entering into such activities. Translation. The actual form of life for the living entities is one of spiritual happiness, which is real happiness. This happiness can be achieved only when one stops all materialistic activities. Material sense enjoyment is simply imagination. Therefore, considering this subject matter, I have ceased from all material activities and am lying down here. I think last time you read, or no, you didn't. You can read.
The difference.
I think you read the purport last time.
The difference between the philosophy of the Mayavadis and that of the Vaishnavas is explained herein. Both the Mayavadis and Vaishnavas know that the materialistic activities, there is no happiness. The Mayavadi philosophers, therefore, adhering to the slogan Brahma Satyam Yogan Mithya, want to refrain from false materialistic activities. They want to stop all activities and merge into the Supreme Brahman. According to the Vaishnava philosophy, however, if one simply ceases from materialistic activity, one cannot remain inactive for very long. And therefore, everyone should engage himself in spiritual activities, which will solve the problem of suffering in this material world.
Let's pass it on. Sure, I think you had your hand up
It
next.
is said, therefore, that although the Mayavadi philosophers strive to refrain from materialistic activities and merge in Brahman, And although they may actually merge in the Brahman existence for want to activities, they fall down again into materialistic activities. Aruhya Krishna Param Padam Tataha Patanti Adaha. Thus, the so-called dancer, unable to remain in meditation upon Brahman, returns to materialistic activities by opening hospitals and schools and so on. Therefore, simply cultivating knowledge and that materialistic activities cannot give one happiness and that one should consequently cease from the such activities is insufficient.
Anyone else? Mataji?
One should cease from materialistic activities and take up spiritual activities. Then the solution to the problem will be achieved. Spiritual activities are activities performed according to the order of Krishna. Anukulena Krishna Nushildana. If one does whatever Krishna says, his activities are not material. For example, when Arjuna fought in response to the order of Krishna, his activities were not material. Fighting for sense gratification is a materialistic activity, but fighting by the order of Krishna is spiritual.
Yes, Prabhu?
By spiritual activities, one becomes eligible to go back home, back to Godhead, and then enjoy blissful life eternally. Here in the material world, everything is but mental concoction that will never give us real happiness. The practical solution, therefore, is to cease from materialistic activities and engage in spiritual activities. Yajnaharthat karmano nayatara loko yam karma bandhanaha. If one works for the sake of pleasing the Supreme Lord, Yajna or Vishnu, one is in liberated life. If one fails to do so, however, he remains in a life of bondage.
Thank you very much. So we're speaking today about the similarities and differences between the impersonalist Mayavadis and the Vaishnavas. So in this past time, in the beginning of the chapter was described the life, the duties of a sannyasi. And in there, then to illustrate the behavior or the nature of a Paramahamsa, then this story was narrated of Prahlad Maharaj meeting the Python Muni, the Python sage. So it appears to be a very peculiar lifestyle that he has adopted, simply lying down and waiting till food enters his mouth. Just like a python sits waiting for the food to come running by and then snatches, the rodent or whatever it may be. So understanding that material life is futile, understanding that material happiness is fleeting and illusory and ultimately unfulfilling for the self, this Python sage, he figured that there's no purpose in endeavoring for anything material. So he thought, let me remain inactive. And whatever comes of its own accord for my maintenance, I will accept that. And if nothing comes, I'll still be satisfied with this. And yet we find in the description that he was quite healthy. So that's ultimately to say that whether we endeavor for anything material or not, our happiness and distress in this lifetime is already predetermined at the moment of our birth by our past actions. So whatever we are endeavoring for now is really for the future. The results of our activities in this life, whatever we believe to be caused by our immediate activities, are actually the results of actions performed long ago. So how much wealth we can accumulate, how much health we have, how much happiness and how much suffering, all of these are already determined at the time of our conception in the womb. So what we're supposed to do is perform our duties. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, karmanyeva adhikaraste, that we have a right to perform our duties, but we should not be attached to the results. The duties is what we should be interested in. The results, that's up to providence. So two people, both of them may be endeavoring very hard in some business, business endeavor, and one of them becomes fabulously wealthy, like a few teenagers in their parents' garage, working on the computers, and they all of a sudden invent, Google, and then boom, they become billionaires. And another set of teenagers are working just as hard and nothing takes off. So it's ultimately up to our destiny, our karma, whether the results of our endeavor will bear the desired fruits in this lifetime or not. So this is what we can understand from this Python man who is quite fit, although he's simply lying down. He's just enjoying the results of his previous activities. However, he's not creating any new karma. Therefore, he's in a liberated position. Now, in the purport here, Srila Prabhupada, sorry, you had a question?
If you don't act right now, can your prarabdha still be helping you? I mean, your past karmas will still
Be helping you?
Yeah, and the way he was lying down wondering and...
Yes, because it's meant to come to you. However, no matter what you do, your reactions will come.
If it is like food is written in my destiny.
Yes.
If I lie down and just, lock my room and sleep the whole day.
Yes.
How will it come? Like,
Yes.
Or do I have to earn it just like...
Yeah, but we should not understand that, this is just, we're enjoying the results of this previous seeds that we planted. If we plant seeds, the tree will grow. And if the tree grows, the fruits will be produced. So we will enjoy the fruits, whether good or bad, right? So, that's what's going on in this lifetime. But we have the illusion that whatever I'm doing now is producing the results. However, we find that sometimes the result comes, sometimes it does not come. So what's determining that? That's our karma. But if we don't endeavor now, that means that we're not producing any good for the future.
At least we are protecting ourselves from not doing something wrong.
Yes, I mean, that's what Srila Prabhupada says is the good thing about the Buddhist, philosophy or the Buddhist lifestyle is at least they're sitting down and not doing any nonsense. So,
Although if you're sleepy and lazy, you could come back as a sleepy, lazy bear.
Yes. So ultimately, this is about consciousness. So that's what we'll discuss also. This Python man is in a transcendental state of consciousness, right? He's self-realized. So what he's doing is in full knowledge. But if we simply sit down out of laziness, this is not necessarily a transcendental position. This is tamogun, the mode of ignorance. And the mode of ignorance will not bear very good results in the future. But if we're in transcendental consciousness, this is the liberated position. We're not producing any future karma. We're becoming free. It's a matter of consciousness, ultimately. Now, in the purport here, Srila Prabhupada takes the opportunity during the narration of this pastime, where we find that this transcendentalist is inactive. He takes the opportunity to compare the impersonalists with the Vaishnavas. So, up to the point of liberation, moksha, we have these 4 goals of human life, the purusharthas. Does everyone know what they are? Yes? Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. So, any pious person, follower of the Vedic culture, or religion in general, they understand that Artha, our prosperity, comes from Dharma. Right? By performance of the activities which are described in the revealed scriptures, this is how we get prosperity. It's not by any mental concoction that anything I do will give me prosperity in this life. And the way we can understand that people who appear prosperous materially in this life, people like the billionaires in this world, Elon Musk and so on, who don't appear to be performing the pious activities according to the Shastra, we understand, as we just said, that they're reaping the results of many lifetimes ago, right? And as Kali Yuga progresses, we're going further from Dharma. So everyone in this world has a long history in this material creation. going back to previous yugas even. And how this intricate web of karma is unfolding, no one can understand. Krishna says it's very difficult to understand karma. So we should not speculate at what point in time we performed what action and led to what result. This is up to the Daiva, Adi Daiva, up to providence, ultimately the will of the Lord. But people who appear to have great opulences now, we can understand that at some point in the past they performed, knowingly or unknowingly, some acts of dharma, according to the injunctions of Scripture. And whether you perform knowingly or unknowingly, the results will be there. If you perform knowingly, consciously, the results will be greater, as Krishna explains in this Govardhan Leela pastime. Right? When Nanda Maharaj, we heard this at the Sunday feast recently, Mahabhagavat Prabhu was explaining that the inhabitants of Vrindavan were engaged in the Indra Yagya, an annual event. And Krishna inquired, what is the foundation of this yagya? Where does it come from? Is it in the scriptures? What's the purpose of this sacrifice? And Nanda Maharaj couldn't give a very clear answer. And in fact, it was not mentioned in the scriptures. It was something that the Vrajvasis did out of gratitude to Lord Indra, who they saw as the source of their prosperity, because he gives rains, and as Vaishyas, they're dependent on the land, on agriculture. And so the rain is the source of all the grains that they can produce. So they engaged in this puja to please Indra. And Krishna explained at that time that activities done in knowledge bear greater results than those done out of mere sentiment. So, knowingly or unknowingly, people in this world are performing activities of dharma that leads to artha. And it's very difficult to enjoy kama without artha. If you don't have much material facility, if you don't have much sense objects, very difficult to enjoy the senses, right? So pious people understand that if I want to get to even material enjoyment, I have to go through the path of dharma, right? We cannot try and circumvent dharma and just grab our artha and enjoy. This is what Duryodhana, Dhritarashtra, this was their approach. They sacrificed dharma for the sake of artha and kama. And what happened in the end? Yes, the Battle of Kurukshetra, and it didn't end well for their party. And the Pandavas, on the other hand, who, led by Maharaj Yudhishthir, the personification of Dharma, Dharmaraj, the son of Dharma, he held fast to Dharma. And in the end, they were prosperous, although it took some time. So we should not expect results overnight, but we should have faith that by performing our duties, that good results are awaiting us in the future. Now, back to the main point here. The Mayavadis and the Vaishnavas both understand that this material world is a place of suffering. They understand that everything is temporary, that material happiness is not the ultimate happiness, and both endeavor to overcome material existence. So they're not interested in dharma, artha, and kama. And they come to the stage of moksha. And up to that point of moksha, both the impersonalists who don't believe in God, but believe in the all-pervading Brahman, as Prabhupada explained in the purport, Brahman means just spirit, transcendental existence, consciousness. Both of them, up to the point of liberation, appear to be similar. They practice some detachment from this world. They have a spiritual sadhana, right? Even sometimes the Mayavadis, the impersonalists, they adopt the process of panchopasana, the worship of 5 personalities, which is Durga, Surya, Ganesh, Shiva, and Vishnu. These 5 deities. Different impersonalists may be worshipping a different deity or maybe all five. But they even adopt the process of Vishnu worship. And so externally, they may even perform all of the same activities of Vaishnavas in their worship of Vishnu. So it appears externally the same. And a neophyte devotee who's not very well versed in the philosophy of bhakti may even mistake Mayavadi for a great devotee. But internally there's something very different going on. The intention, the goal is different, right? So the Mayavadi is using the process of bhakti, at least the form of bhakti, the activities of bhakti, chanting the holy name, doing deity worship, and so on. He's doing this as a means to an end. He's doing this to get liberated. And at the time of liberation, he throws away his worship. And he believes himself to be that same deity that he is worshipping, that same name that he's chanting. And even he will throw away his spiritual master because he realizes that the Guru, myself, and God are all one. What is the need for a Guru? And they abide in the self on the liberated platform. The devotee, however, even at the time of liberation, does not give up his devotional service to the Lord. In fact, according to the Srimad Bhagavatam, Muktir hitvan yata rupam swarupena vyavastati. Real liberation means to be reinstated in your transcendental form, swarup, your swarup. The impersonalist does not believe we have a swarup. Rupa means form. They believe that there is no form in spiritual life, there's no name, there's no activity, there's no qualities. Everything is zero, void. However, the version of the Bhagavatam is that liberation means to resume your spiritual identity. And we understand that the soul is a person. The soul is an individual entity. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Natvivaham jatu nasam natvam name janarapaha nachaiva na bhavishyama sarve vayam ataparam. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you. Nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. We are eternally individual. Krishna said, he said, me and you. Aham and tvam. Tvam means you're speaking to another person. Krishna would not use this language if everything was one. That's practically the first verse of his lesson to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So he's there clearly revealing that actually we are eternally individuals. And bhakti depends on that foundation, that the distinction between the individual soul and God is real. If that distinction of individuality were illusion, as the Mayavadis claim, real love cannot exist, because love means two. They talk about loving themselves, being love, and the Upanishads say that Krishna is raso vaisaha. He is rasa. He is love. He is relationship. But what does that mean? It means that he perfectly fulfills all of the relationships he has with his devotees. And in this month of Kartik, we hear about the special relationship Krishna has with his mother, Yashoda. Krishna becomes subordinate to that love. He exists for love, for rasa. And this rasa means there must be two. And in fact, this is why we exist. We exist to enhance the bliss of Krishna and to share in that bliss. Krishna is so kind, so merciful, that he could exist individually or independently as Atmaram, self-satisfied, but he expands all of his various shaktis, his potencies. And one of those potencies is the Jiva Shakti or Tatastha Shakti. And this is us. We are the Jiva Shakti. And the only purpose for our existence is to share in loving reciprocation with Krishna. So this is the Vaishnav position. The Mayavadis, on the other hand, they reject all of this. Relationship, form, individuality is all part of this material existence. It's what we have to overcome in order to attain real self-realization, which is that ultimately I am God. I am everything. So this is the distinction. Liberation for the devotees is actually insignificant. In fact, that's one of the qualities of bhakti. There are 6 qualities of bhakti listed in the Nectar of Devotion. One of them is moksha laghutta krit. When a devotee is tasting the bliss of bhakti, then moksha becomes, laghu, becomes very insignificant. In fact, moksha is something that's just picked up along the way. It's not a goal. And according to Bhagavad Gita, the real bhakti begins at the point of liberation. And our acharyas have made this point, that real bhakti means prema. And prema begins long after liberation. Liberation is a beginning point, actually, for real devotional service. So it's easily attained by the process of bhakti. Because who gives liberation? Mukunda. Mukunda is the name of Krishna, which means the bestower of liberation. So if you please Krishna, very easily you will get liberation. He gives liberation just like spare change. No problem. But prema, that he doesn't give so easily. Because by prema, we can understand through this Damodar Leela, by prema, Krishna is captured. So he'll not give that to just anyone. We have to remember, Krishna is a person. He's a person, not some impersonal light, not some energy. Krishna is a person, just like us. Not exactly like us. Very special person. You know, Bhagavan means he's full in all qualities. He's a perfect person. But he's a person nonetheless. That means he has feelings, he has emotions, he has desires. And what he desires most of all is love. And for that love, he will do anything. He will go to any extent. Because imagine if you were God. Put yourself in the position of God. You have everything. You are everything. There's nothing that you don't, there's nothing you can desire that you don't already have or that you are not. Yet you're alone. What would you want? Like, you can exist in a room by yourself and have all of the material things you want. But at some point you'll desire personal interaction, you'll desire relationship. So Krishna is no different. He wants relationship, rasa. And that is what captures Krishna's attention. So, prema then is kept locked up in the storehouse. It's locked away, and as we understand, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates came to break open that storehouse of love of God and distribute that freely all over the world through this Sankirtan movement, of which ISKCON is an extension. But for that, if we want to distribute this love of God, shouldn't we also have love of God ourselves? We have to take to this process. We have to also taste that prema that Lord Chaitanya and his followers are distributing. We should gratefully take up this process of Krishna consciousness and ourselves get that taste. The more we ourselves become imbibed with that, we can share it effectively with others. That's a side point, but an important point. We have to taste this process of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness should be joyful. The impersonal path, on the other hand, Krishna explains in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, very difficult, very austere. Denying the senses. Over here in the ISKCON temple, we have great feasts all the time. Chanting, dancing, so much ecstasy. But the Mayavadis, they sit and discuss Vedanta, very deep, intricate, dry philosophy. Why is it dry? Because there's no trace of Krishna in there. And Krishna's rasa, raso vaisaha. If you take away Krishna, you take away rasa, and without rasa means literally juice. It's the juice of life, the flavor. What all of us are looking for, Prabhupada explains in the introduction of Nectar Devotion, is rasa. Even in our material endeavors, we're looking for that rasa. But Krishna's rasa. So how can you expect to enjoy life if you take away Krishna? As Prabhupada said, everything is all zero. Our material sense objects, all material things are all a bunch of zeros until you put the one in front, Krishna, and then it becomes valuable. Right? Whatever we have is all useless if we don't have Krishna. Krishna gives value. He says in the second canto, in the famous Chaturshloki verses, the four core verses of Bhagavatam, Ritertam yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tadvadyad atmano mayam yatha bhaso yatha tamaha. He tells Brahma, whatever appears to be of value in this world, if it has no connection to me, is simply my illusory energy. It has no reality. So we have to connect everything to Krishna. This is what the Mayavadis are missing. And that's why, as Prabhupada explains in the purport, eventually they come back. That's the statement of Bhagavatam. The Mayavadis may go up so high, but without shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna, they have to come back. Just like the astronauts who go to space, they can go for so long, but they cannot stay permanently because they have no shelter. They have to come back to earth. Or the birds in the sky. They can fly so high, but eventually they have to come down for shelter. Similarly, the impersonalists, they may enjoy this Brahmananda for some time, but why can they not stay there? They cannot stay there because it's not the natural position of the soul. The soul is part and parcel of Krishna. Jivara Swarupa Hoya Krishnera Nityadas. We're eternal servant of Krishna. So the soul is only satisfied in devotional service with Krishna. We can endeavor in so many ways to be happy, to fill that void, but it will never be filled by anything other than Krishna. So even if we're trying to enjoy simply existence, sat, meditating on spirit, on consciousness, it appears to be happiness because it's void of any material suffering. But the absence of suffering is not happiness. It's just neutral. So if you're in the negative, you're suffering. And then you come back to zero, baseline. You may think you're happy because you're not suffering. But real happiness means positive. Tortured, your head is dunked underwater and you're drowning. And then they pull your head up out of the water and you have a moment of relief. And you feel, I'm in ecstasy. And then again, they dunk you under. But that's not happiness, that's just the absence of suffering. That's what moksha is. But prema, bhakti rasa, this is real happiness. And that's what's said here in this verse. The actual form of life for the living entities is one of spiritual happiness, which is real happiness. Spiritual happiness means, let us not mistake it, means Krishna consciousness. It's technically what the Mayavadis are aspiring for. That kind of liberation, we don't accept it as spiritual. at the end of the day. Why? Because it's temporary. Anything temporary must be mundane. So for us to attain the real position, the real spiritual position, we must be void of any personal desire, and the desire for liberation is a material desire. But Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma dhyanavritam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhaktiruttamam. The definition of pure bhakti, uttama bhakti, is it must be void of any personal ambition, even the desire for liberation. That's the transcendental position. So, this is the distinction between the Mayavadis and the Vaishnavas. I think we can stop here and take any questions or comments on this. Yeah, okay. Where to begin? Yes, Prabhu.
Earlier on in your class, you said that no matter what I do, the reactions that are meant for me will always come to me. And I was always really afraid of this. Like you mentioned, that it's very difficult to understand what action I might have done in my previous life is giving me a certain result now. And I would speculate a lot. And I would just be really afraid of karma, just because I wasn't sure what might come to me. And also you said that the happiness and distress are already predetermined for me, right? And that also is really frightening, because it's like, it's not frightening, it's just, it feels like I shouldn't try for anything. But then you also said that we should, like, prosperity comes from Dharma, so we should still endeavor, like, we shouldn't stop endeavoring. And the Mayavadi person thinks that you should just stop doing things, but we know that, no, we can't stop.
Yes.
Even for a moment. So I like those points. And I guess the question I want to ask is, no matter what I do, like say I'm working out, or I want to get into a company, or a certain company, or I want a certain thing in life, if I just add Krishna to it, everything will be fine. Is that the right understanding?
Yes, you add Krishna, and then you have to keep on adding Krishna. You have Krishna plus more Krishna. Yes. When you add Krishna to anything, it becomes perfect, but there's also more perfect and most perfect. So in the beginning, this is also a similarity between the path of the Mayavadis and the path of the devotees, is they follow similarly what Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, that you begin from the position of karma, or even vikarma, sinful activities, and you connect yourself to the scriptures through karma yoga. You perform detached action. And there's stages of karma yoga, sakam karma yoga, with desire. I still have my material desire, but I'm giving the results. And then there's nishkam karma yoga, where I don't have desire for the results, I do it out of duty. Both the Mayavadis and devotees do that. Ultimately, we want to come to the position where we're not just connecting ourselves to Krishna, but we're doing what we do for the pleasure of Krishna. This is bhakti. Bhakti yoga means we're acting for Krishna's pleasure. We should always think, in this moment, what would be pleasing for Krishna? Not just that we add Krishna. Srila Prabhupada says, even the drunkard, he can offer the pure water and the alcohol to Krishna. To begin the process, we can start somewhere. But that's not exactly a standard to maintain for your life, right? So you've added Krishna, but now we have to always improve our service to Krishna. And we have to overcome this self-centered mentality that I just want to do what I like, and then I'll offer it to Krishna, right? It should begin with, what would Krishna like? And as we discussed 2 days ago, that's the position of sannyas. Sannyas means everything belongs to Krishna, therefore I will act only as an instrument on his behalf, right? So there are levels to also connecting to Krishna. Sorry, you had your hand.
Right. Thank you. I deeply touched by your class, and it feels like I understand everything what you said, but my mind still speculates something to me, and I want to bring it up.
Yes.
You mentioned like it's a most perfect and transcendental when you have no desire for liberation, no desire. But how about a desire to serve?
Yes, that we should have. Actually, no desire, no material desire means no desire save and except the desire to please Krishna. Because that's the natural position. As we said, Jivira Surupahore, Krishna and Nitya Das, we are eternal servant of Krishna. Therefore, it's natural for us to desire Krishna's happiness. Any other desire is mundane.
So there is one desire that's okay to have.
Yes, yes, one desire is okay to have. That is the desire to please Krishna. Yes, Prabhu.
So in one of the translations, Prahlad Maharaj was still indicated as Asura. So I mean,
Best of the asuras, though.
happy problem or bad problems, problem is still a problem. Well, he was such a pure devotee, and still he is recognized by his bodily
Yes.
parameters.
But that becomes a glorification of Prahlad Maharaj. It's a homage to him that he's actually transcended this designation and this birth, right? So we don't see it as some kind of insult or anything like this. Actually, we see it as one of the glories of Prahlad Maharaj. Yeah. And even Prahlad, when he was addressing his father, though, he also said, "Oh, best of the asuras." That's a different meaning. Best of the asuras can mean you're the greatest demon, or you're the greatest amongst the dynasty of demons. So, just like if you say, you know, Dharma Pran is the greatest of Canadians. Right. It's not an insult, it's a glorification. So we should take it in that way. Yes, Prabhu.
So I don't know whether the question would be the perfect to the context to this verse, but when you just mentioned, like, when you put Krishna in between everything and still desire materialistic thing, but that's a materialistic desire only. Even we put Krishna, but still that would be a materialistic desire. Wouldn't it be wrong?
You mean putting Krishna would be?
No.
Just still, if
still
you...
having a materialistic
Yeah.
desire. Because just now you mentioned the only desire to have is, the good desire is having Krishna. Like, to be in his service and to want him.
Yeah.
To be in his lotus feet, to do anything that to serve him. So let's suppose material desire is like, you know, karam nisht karam yog. So we have to do our karmas
Yes.
without thinking of fruit and without thinking
Yes.
of it as anything that would bring it to us.
Yes.
And then certainly we do, like, you know, let's suppose somebody is studying to get best grades or be on the top of the class, or somebody is studying to make, you know, get more knowledge and get in the best in the field. So
Yes.
aren't these materialistic desires? Even we think like it's Krishna who is helping us to do this, who is putting these desires in us.
Yes.
And even we are, like, you know, making him as a center.
Yes.
So these desires aren't bad, like, because these desires are materialistic desires only.
Sure, yeah. So I wasn't just texting on my phone, sorry, I was listening. I was looking for a verse actually that was not coming to mind. But so there's a verse that answers your question in the Bhagavatam. Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradhihi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta paramam purusham param, yes. This is that whether you're full of material desires, sarva kama, or you have no material desires, akama, or you desire liberation, moksha kama, that in any case you should engage in bhakti yoga, right? Even if you're coming from the platform where you're just infested with material desires. Because ultimately, who's fulfilling your desires? Is it your material endeavor?
No, Krishna.
It's Krishna.
Yeah.
Ultimately, who's fulfilling your desires. Even material desires, desire for liberation, or your ultimate devotional desires of prema. In any case, Krishna is the one who's fulfilling your desires. So, there are, as we said, there are levels, right? But you have to begin somewhere. And even if you pray to Krishna to fulfill your material desires, it's a starting point. You're acknowledging that Krishna is actually the source of even my material happiness, right? So then in any case, you have to include Krishna in the picture. We should understand at the same time, this is not the highest ideal. This is a starting point. And from there, you will get purified. And gradually those material desires will subside, and you'll start to desire more and more just to please Krishna. But you have to connect Krishna. So I hope that answers your question.
So in the end, it's actually saying like material desires would go off when you reach certain levels of bhakti.
Yes.
And it's just starting that you feel like one feels like I have the material desires.
Yes, this is the material disease actually, and as we progress spiritually, the material fever subsides. The fever comes down. We have material fever, so many material desires, more than we can understand actually. This is like what's in our mind, what we are conscious of is the tip of the iceberg. But you've seen a picture of an iceberg? Like little tip above the water and then this big monster underneath the water. So in our psyche, in our deep subconscious, we have innumerable material desires accumulated from millions, billions, trillions of lifetimes. We have no idea how long we've been here. And all of these lifetimes, those samskaras, those impressions from our experiences are all accumulated within us, in our chitta, our polluted consciousness. And at certain times, a little bubble comes, like if you've ever seen there's a pond and it's all still, and then all of a sudden, bloop, a bubble comes. Because underneath the water, something is rotting down there. Something's festering. There's something at the bottom of the swamp that's decaying. And sometimes little bubbles will come. So in our own heart, there's so much contamination. And sometimes it appears we're very peaceful, we're living on the surface of our real consciousness. We're living on the surface, carefree, and that's Krishna's mercy. If Krishna revealed all of the desires and attachments and anarthas that are festering in us, we would be so discouraged. But this process of bhakti is so powerful that the reactions of millions of lifetimes worth of sinful actions are mitigated just by once chanting the name of Krishna. So we should not be discouraged, actually. We should have faith in the holy name, take shelter of the holy name, and this will gradually purify us of so many reactions that we're not even aware of. So I hope that helps. Prabhu Mataji has a question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. That was really lovely class. It resonated quite a bit with me. I had a question, Prabhu, that Krishna Prema, is that also given based on the results of our prayers? Like, I asked because, like, okay, I've gotten into Krishna consciousness now, but I'm hoping, I don't know, next lifetime where I'll be, hopefully it'll be rewarded when I'm a little more younger, you know, when I'm like versus now. So is that also rewarded based on the fact that maybe in some lifetimes you were in Krishna consciousness, or is that just pure mercy of Radharani? That
Pure mercy.
Pure mercy. Okay.
Bhakti is independent, just like Krishna. Krishna is independent, right? He only allows himself to be captured when he wants to. Bhakti is the internal potency of Krishna. Bhakti Devi is independent also. There's no cause, complete causeless mercy. There's no material activity, there's no knowledge, there's no sacrifice, there's nothing we can do to get prema, actually. We can simply desire it strongly, and we can act in such a way that she sees our sincerity, and maybe one day we'll get her mercy. But to say, you know, otherwise then we would say bhakti is dependent on something else, right? That there's something higher than bhakti, and then we should aspire for that instead, actually, because bhakti is dependent on that. But actually, prema bhakti is completely independent, and It only comes from, so bhakti comes from bhakti. That's all. It comes from the heart of one who has it. It's a heart transplant, right? You have to associate with those who have it, and that's the only way. There's no other cause.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think we'll conclude here. We're over time. Thank you very much for your rapt attention. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaura Premanande.